Hello and welcome to the fourth installment of my grading of all of the expansion cards in Terraforming Mars. This is the third episode on Venus Next. As always, if you want insight into the grading system, check out the description or click on the link in the top right hand corner to get to the first video, where I explain it all. If you want to know how I go about ranking the expansion cards compared to the base game cards, check out the first video of rating expansion cards, which is linked in the description. But let's get started. We start off today's episode with Dirigibles, a quintessential Venus Next combo card. If I'm planning to go for a Venus combo, this is one of the cards I most like to see. As a pure production card, it is 2 MC cheaper than Acquired Company, since you can place and use a floater immediately when you play it. The only problem here is that you can use these floaters only to pay for Venus tags, and Venus tags are rare. If we're only playing with base game, Prelude and Venus Next, so the best case scenario, which I assume for this rating, there are 264 project cards and only 32 Venus tags. Way less than the 57 space tags or 73 building tags. At the same time, titanium prot and steel prot is much cheaper. Also, Venus tags are on average not that strong. Today's episode alone will feature 2 absolute shitters already. Of course, pure production is not the only aspect of Dirigibles. It can also be used in combination with other strong floater cards like floating Habs or aerial mappers to great effect. The pure outcome is never game breaking. I mean, with these two you get either half a card or half a point out of the action, but the flexibility sure is very nice. All in all, I have a soft spot for Dirigibles, and as I said, if you're going for Venus, it is quite nice. So I'll place it at the lower end of C tier. But let's immediately get to one of those F tier shitters I just mentioned. Extractor Balloons. The problem with this card is that it is insanely expensive. 21 MC for a card that lets you increase Venus every 3rd gen? For real? Compare this to Regolith Eaters, which lets you increase Oxygen every 3rd gen for 13 MC, comes with a science tag, and is still considered a subpar card. Sure, Extractor Balloons has some upsides over that. For one, you get an immediate conversion and have one more floater on it afterwards, so it provides a bit of a head start. Also, it helps immensely with Hoverlord, a guaranteed milestone on all maps, and it is a TR generating card for an engine player that doesn't want to increase the oxygen or temperature track. But in the end, it always comes back to the exorbitant price. 21 MC is just too much for the TR it generates. You only reach 4 TR after 9 gens, or 5 TR after 12 gens. A game length that is not at all guaranteed, and this assumes you play Extractor Balloons in Gen 1. And for 3 TR, I wouldn't say it was at all worth it, just compared to Giant Solar Shade, which grants 3 instant TR and all of the economic benefits of that immediately. Yes, for 6 MC more, but you can at least use Titanium on it. And also, if I want to increase the Venus for a card like Stratospheric Birds, I want to increase it as soon as possible and not over the course of 6 gens. All in all, I think Extractor Balloons is one of the worst cards of the Venus Next expansion and definitely deserves an F tier placement. In Venus Next and the other following expansions, it is clear that microbe cards and microbes as a sub-strategy were buffed. The expansions introduce a few really strong microbe cards and also combo pieces that help you get the other microbe cards going. One of these combo pieces is Extremophiles. On its own, it's alright. Compared to tardigrades, it's 1 MC cheaper, has one more tag, with the additional Venus tag being very handy for certain combos or Venophile, and it yields a third of a point per gen instead of a fourth. This, together with the fact that it offers a stall action, makes it quite a handy card in an engine strategy. Of course, it has a 2 science requirement. If this requirement prevents you from playing Extremophiles for a few gens, its value quickly deteriorates. But 2 science tags can often be achieved in Gen 1, and in this case, Extremophiles is nice. It gets even better if you get another microbe card down which offers better value, like ants, GHG producing bacteria, sulfur eating bacteria, or Venusian insects. For these cases, we need to compare it to symbiotic fungus. In my opinion, Extremophiles is better in almost all aspects. It's again a bit cheaper, has more tags, can be played much easier, and earlier in most cases, and can be used on its own instead of completely relying on a combo card. That leaves us with a card that is better than both tardigrades and symbiotic fungus, in almost all circumstances. Both of these cards I've placed in D tier. But how good does this make Extremophiles? In my opinion, it is a C tier card. It has good value and can come in handy in many engine games, but it is not that impactful and therefore cannot land in B tier. A card that can definitely be very impactful is Floating Habs. This is the only half-point floater card in Venus Next and is therefore the perfect recipient of floaters from cards like Aerial Mappers, Air Scrapping Expedition, Dirigibles, Stratopolis or Celestic. If you get multiple of these cards online to combo with Floating Habs, it can accumulate a ton of floaters and score quite a few points. The problem with Floating Habs is not that its potential is too low or that it is too difficult to play. In fact, it is very cheap and has a manageable requirement for any engine player. The only strategy in which you should play this card anyways. No, the problem is that on its own, Floating Habs is rather inefficient. Since you need to pay 2 MC per floater, you'll pay 5.6 MC per point if you use this gens on its own. As a reminder, a VP is roughly worth 5 MC, so at that point you're still overpaying for the points by quite a bit. It feels like an easier to start up, but slower and more expensive version of Security Fleet. You really need combo potential or otherwise it's not great. The problem remains that many combo cards are just very expensive. Stratopolis can score well in combination with Floating Habs, but it costs 22 freaking MC. I feel like my impression of Floating Habs and that of many other players is heavily influenced by games with colonies, in which Titan was in game, and where this card scored 20 points due to a combination of combo cards and consistent trading. But when playing with just Venus Next, only half of this combo is available, and therefore Floating Habs often feels underwhelming. In the end, I'd still put it in low B tier, since it is so easy to get down, helps with Hoverlord and Venophile, and has enormous potential with the right combo cards. And let's end this episode with another really bad card. Forced Precipitation is the smaller brother of Extractor Balloons, and it's really bad but for different reasons. Instead of being enormously expensive upfront, this card is cheap to get going but has an ugly upkeep cost and most importantly is much slower than its bigger brother. You can use Extractor Balloons to snipe Hoverlord, but nothing similar to that is possible with Forced Precipitation. You play this card for exactly 0 value and then you have to spend money for 2 gens before you get anything out of it. Only after 9 gens you finally reach your 3rd Venus bump. And what did you pay for this slow ordeal? 29 MC, or 9.7 MC per Venus bump. That's roughly the same amount you pay for Giant Solar Shade, but much slower. And that's just awful. Due to its cheaper price in comparison to Extractor Balloons, Forced Precipitation combos a bit better with Celestic or Dirigibles. If you use those cards, you also skip half of the upkeep cost, but it doesn't change the fact that Forced Precipitation is just bad. Another F tier card in my opinion. Avoid this at all cost. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments whether you agree with my ratings or if not, how you would have rated these cards differently. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And lastly, please check out my Twitch and my Twitter. See you in the next video.